I remember when the CEO of Oris was talking about how in this day and age, the purpose of a mechanical watch was to make people smile. Objectively speaking, we don't need watches, but we love them because it's an emotional connection. First of all, kudos to him and his team for having this mindset, especially when being in the business of selling watches. But when you think about it, we can't deny that. Saving up for a grail watch, building the perfect collection, that exciting hunt for the next piece, making that tough choice between sending your kid to school or downsizing your watch collection, and eventually coming to the realization that the kid doesn't need luck, he needs to make his own luck. And so sticking with your Rolexes and Pateks. That's what this hobby is all about, because watches are emotional products, especially nowadays. So here are 6 watches, in my opinion, that are bound to make you smile. If you like Studio Underdog and Mr. Jones watches, then I bet you'll appreciate the quirky watches from the Japanese microbrand Dax. This time, the brand has released a watch that resembles a wall clock. And this isn't the serious looking wall clock that Max Bill designed for Junghans, which I also love, by the way. This is a happy clock, a clock that fills you with nostalgia, reminding you of your school days. The watch comes in a surprisingly wearable 41mm stainless steel case, a thickness of 11.2mm, and a lug width of 18mm. You get 50 meters water resistance, making it perfect as an everyday wear, a domed mineral crystal which adds a bit of distortion when reading the time, and a hacking seconds hand, meaning that the seconds hand stops when you pull out the crown for easy time adjustment. You also have black curved Arabic numerals boldly printed on the beige dial, with just the 12 and the seconds hand in red, in a well-rounded case with wired lugs that don't deviate the visual attention from the dial. But what's even more interesting about this watch than the dial is the movement. It uses the Japanese Miyota Super Quartz movement that has an extended battery life of 4 years, which is awesome compared to the typical 2 to 3 years that we see in most watches. Plus, you can actually see the movement partially through a small window on the case back, which isn't something you see every day, unless you're Grand Seiko. There are so many small details that make this a fun, do-it-all watch with a price tag of just around $150. Before you consider buying your next swatch, and I'm not talking about the Blancpain collaboration because I love that, but if you're just considering a regular swatch, just take a moment to look at this. When I hear things like summer watch or weekend watch, this is one of those that come to mind. This reminds me of all things 80s. This is a watch that you can imagine Max wearing in Stranger Things when she's faced with Vecna. Actually, never mind. I don't want to talk about that. That was too dark. But this is a happy watch with graffiti-style luminescent paint splashed all over it. It comes in a 42mm PVD-coated stainless steel case with a lug width of 20mm and has a box cave-in hardened mineral crystal and a water resistance of 30 meters. So it's not exactly a watch you could wear swimming, but it's still good enough as an everyday watch. The movement inside is the Miyota 2033 with a patented module incorporated that lights up the LEDs on the watch. You can choose between either the black or the white variant, which is limited to just 444 pieces and a price tag of $350. The Electricians is just one of those brands that doesn't take itself too seriously and consistently makes fun watches at an affordable price. And I love that about this. Unlike some of the other watches on this list, the new Baltic Bicompact 003 is not deliberate in its attempt to make people smile. It's a serious watch with serious performance. But the joy factor comes into play when you take a closer look at the watch. It's not every day that we see a micro brand release one hit after another, but Baltic does exactly that. And this Bicompact 3 is the newest release within that model family that proves the point. Keeping in line with the trend of smaller watches, this watch comes in a slightly smaller case size of 36.5mm as compared to the previous generation 38mm case size. The lug-to-lug measurements come in at 46mm, The lug width is 20 millimeters and the case height is 13 millimeters, which includes the high domed Hazelite crystal. The same Hazelite that protected every Omega Speedmaster professional that went to the moon. Turn the watch around and you'll be greeted with the Seagull ST1901 caliber with a column wheel chronograph function, which makes it a pure visual spectacle to get lost into. This is a manual wind movement with 42 hours of power reserve and beats at 21,600 beats per hour. With a price tag of around $600, there's truly nothing else like this in the market in terms of the overall package that you get. If you love classic American muscle cars, then you might appreciate this next watch that I'm about to show you. Founded in 2014 in Denmark by a group of car and watch enthusiasts, REC is guided by its philosophy to produce limited but unique one-of-a-kind series of watches, but with the mindset of recover, recycle, and reclaim. In other words, REC. This model is slightly on the larger side with a 44mm stainless steel case with a thickness of 14mm and a lug width of 24mm. You get a sapphire crystal with AR coating protecting the dial along with 30 meters of water resistance. Powering this hefty beast is an automatic Miura 9310 caliber with 48 hours of power reserve that can be viewed through the exhibition case back with a custom rotor weight. Now here's the fun part about this watch. The scratched up dial on this P51 comes from parts of a vintage Ford Mustang that had been salvaged, making no two dials alike. The dial is also layered with clear lacquer to keep the patina from spreading to other parts of the case. And if that wasn't enough, each watch is engraved with a unique vehicle identification number. You even get a video of each watch that shows you the origin story of the specific car that the dial has been made from. The old cars may be too damaged for any use, but this brand gives them a whole new life. And in this case, for a fair price of under $1,500. But don't wait too long because this model was limited to just 917 pieces and has been sold out on REC's official website. You know how you've got brands like Oris that pride themselves on producing watches that make sense? Asmo does exactly the opposite. This brand takes us to the other side of the functionality spectrum, the one where they design watches with one goal in mind. How do we make them different, but without costing several $100,000? This Asmo Twin Turbo is a strange looking timepiece. It reminds me of, I don't know why, it reminds me of Wall-E. And yes, you'd have to convince a lot of people that this is in fact a timepiece that takes its design inspiration from vintage cars. And that inspiration isn't just reflected on the two dials, but on everything, including the strap and the aluminum bonnet. The watch comes in a case size of 54mm and a peak height of 15mm. Because of its curved design, it doesn't wear as big as the dimensions may indicate. It's kind of hard to describe its wearability, but there's nothing like this in the market, except maybe MB&F, which is something completely different. But even on my wrist, it doesn't look too big, and I don't wear anything beyond 42mm if I can help it. The watch features two individual movements behind each of those two dials, which means that you can set two different time zones. Both movements are the Swiss-made vintage ETA 2512-2 manual calibers that are known to be used widely in the 70s in the luxury market. So you know that when you get this watch, you're getting a relatively reliable new all-stock movement. You can choose between two different colors, but because these movements are so rare, each option is just limited to 88 pieces. The price tag is slightly on the steeper side, with this one coming in at around $5,000. But Asmo is known for creating highly limited, highly proprietary designs and complications, which makes their price points understandable. These are not mainstream designs, they aren't generic designs, and they're not mass produced. So the price point kind of makes sense. And lastly, no, it's not this watch, but your own watch. The watch that's on your wrist, whether it's a Swatch or a Casio, should be the watch that should make you smile. Oftentimes, we get so obsessed with the chase for the next piece that we forget to take a breath and enjoy the watches that we own. I would even suggest changing the strap just to give your old watch a new look. And trust me, that makes a lot of difference. A watch doesn't need to tell a joke to make you smile. It doesn't need to have cartoons on the dial to make you smile. It just needs to remind you of the happy times you've had while wearing it. And that's why watches are so powerful. Because of their longevity and timelessness, they can carry decades of memories with them. In order for us to be able to experience such a thing, we'd have to wear them until their value goes beyond the dollar amount and until they become priceless in our eyes. What is the watch that makes you smile? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed making it. Do support this channel by hitting the like, subscribe, and the notification bell. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and do check out Red Army Watches Malaysia for fun and unique watches at every price point. International delivery is available. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.